Hi future bureaucrats of India, welcome to LearnStroke IAS Crack Prelims 2023, the exclusive current affairs test series discussion where all the questions are taken from newspapers and magazines. So solve the questions with me. Let's go to the first question. Here we go. Consider the following statements regarding thermal power plants. Statement number 1. A thermal power plant station is used to convert electrical energy to heat energy for household and commercial applications. Statement number 2. In a thermal power plant, the heat energy is obtained from the combustion of solid fuel, which is basically coal, and used to convert water into steam. Third statement, the steam is used to rotate the turbine blade connected to the generator, which converts the kinetic energy of the turbine to electrical energy. Which of the following statements are true in this regard? So what is the answer? 1 and 3, 2 and 3, 2 only, and 1 only. So let's solve the question with me. A thermal power plant station is used to convert electrical energy. And why is thermal power plant in the news? Because India is also facing a big time coal shortage. So coal is something where you use the solid combustion material. So coal is very much needed for the power, and thermal power plants produces electricity to households, commercial, etc. So that is why this is in the news. So the question itself, it converts electrical energy to heat energy. So getting heat energy for the household and commercial applications doesn't make logic. Statement 1 is false. It creates heat energy. It creates from heat. It creates the electrical energy for the household. So it is it's completely the reverse of that. So statement 1 is false. In thermal power plants, the heat energy is obtained from combustion of solid fuel. So the heat energy definitely is applied, and what happens is normally the solid combustion of fuel, which is basically coal, is used, and then the steam is used to rotate the turbine. So statement number 2 is right, and the steam is used to rotate the turbine, thus creating the kinetic energy of the turbine into electrical energy. Statement number 2 and 3 are perfectly right. So what is the answer? The answer was 2 and 3. So please understand about thermal power plants, and this is why the question was asked. Coal demand supply mismatch, rising prices, mounting debts plague thermal power generators, pollution body bans coal use in Delhi, etc. So a lot of times thermal power plants are coming in the news. So know in detail about what is thermal power plant. So it uses to convert heat energy to electrical power, and in this process electrical power, a steam operated turbine converts heat to a mechanical power and then finally to electricity. So in this process what happens is a solid combustion of a solid fuel should be used, and that is coal. So majority of the thermal power plants in India depend on coals to convert water into steam, which rotates this turbine. So that is the whole thing about the thermal power plant. So read more about this. This can be a possible question. Moving on to the next important questions. You take a look at the diagram. You can freeze the video and watch. Take a look at the diagram also. Let's move to the next important question. Question here goes. Second question. Consider the following statement regarding Assisted Reproductive Technology Regulation Act, or the ART Act 2021. Again, surrogacy is definitely in the news. So you should know what is the ART Act 2021. Here we go. Under the Act, every ART clinic and bank must be registered under the State Registry of Banks and Clinics of India. Statement number 1. Statement number 2. The Act also provides for setting up of State Reproductive Technology and Surrogacy Board, which shall lay down a code of conduct to be observed by persons working at ART clinic and ART banks. Statement number 3. The Act also empowers the central government to make rules to carry out the provision of the Act as and when the time comes. So 3 statements. Which of the following statement are right? Let's find it out. ART. Under the ART Act, every ART clinic and ART bank should be registered under the State Registry of Banks and Clinics of India. There is definitely a state board which can be constituted by the state, but it is not the State Registry of Banks and Clinic, it is the National Registry of Banks. So definitely there can be state assisted boards which will also have registration, but primarily under the Act, every registration should be in the national registry. So statement 1 is wrong. Statement number 2, the act also provides for setting up of state reproductive technology and surrogacy board. See, this statement can be right because Telangana government has created an assisted, state can always create an assisted board, but the power to lay down a code of conduct to be applied for working of people at ART clinic and bank should be from the National Reproductive Technology and Surrogacy Board and not the state board. The code of conduct shall be set by the National Code of Conduct Authority. So statement number 2 is also false. Even though states has a registration and they have to register in themselves, but the code of conduct power and the registration, everything happens is a national process. That is the reason why it is it's an act. And the state's third statement, it empowers the central government to make laws and rules to carry out provisions of the act when the time comes, as when the time needs. Perfectly, the answer is right. The central government has the power to make laws regarding that. So what is the answer? 1 only, 2 only, 3 only, 1, 2 and 3. The answer was 3 only. So why I'm just give you an idea about this. So board to curb illegal surrogacy, state assisted reproductive technology, assisted reproductive technology act doesn't apply, Kerala High Court. So a lot of news keep coming about ART acts, and you can see there is a national registry of banks and clinics where they have to register every ART clinic in this country and bank. ART bank should actually, semen banks should actually register with national registry, and there is a National Reproductive Technology and Surrogacy Board which can lay out a code of conduct. And as you can see, what are some of the ART services? You can see the gamete or the in vitro fertilization or gestational surrogacy. So all these are many services are offered by this, and it's a very, very serious thing. The concept of surrogacy is misused, just like you must have seen in the movie Mimi. Many movies portray the sad part of surrogacy. So read more about this, and there are many regulations regarding this. Who should be a donor? What are the conditions that a donor should fulfill? Imagine a bank can obtain semen from males from 25 to 55, and you can see the oocytes from female between 23 and 55. If there is an option that it is between 21, there is no age limit for that. That's wrong. There is an age limit for this, and central government can make the rules when there is a time. And you can see the Telangana government has appointed state assisted boards. States can create this board, but definitely the national registry and the national board shall take over the main registration process. So this was the news regarding ART. Read more provisions on ART. Okay. And now let's move on to the next third question. According to Article 19, Clause 1A of the Indian Constitution, all citizens shall have the right to freedom of speech and expression. Consider the following statements. So, the right to speech does not include the right not to speak. It's a tricky statement. The right to speech does not include the right not to speak. So read that. Participation in sports is an expression of oneself, and hence participation in sports is a freedom of expression or speech. The exercise of this right, the freedom of expression, is however subjected to reasonable restrictions for certain purposes being imposed under Article 21, Right to Life of the Constitution of India. Which of the following statements are correct? 1 and 2, 2 only, 1 and 3, 3 only. So let's solve the answer. I think you must have solved the answer. And the first statement, the right to speech does not include the right not to speak. This statement is false because the right to speak is a fundamental right, and the right to freedom of speech and expression. Likewise, the right not to speak, that is not my right to speak. I don't want to speak. That is also freedom of expression under fundamental rights. So right not to speak is also freedom of expression, and statement 1 is wrong. Participation in sports is a freedom of speech and expression. Yes, statement 2 is correct. The exercise of this right is subjected to reasonable restrictions. No freedom of speech and expression is absolute. So on what cases can we say that this is not absolute? And that is why something called as reasonable restriction is imposed in the Constitution, and that is not Article 21. That was reasonable restriction comes under 19 Clause 2. So nothing to do with right to life article. So statement 3 is also wrong. What is the answer? The answer was 2 only. 1 and 3 statements are wrong. And why is this question asked? Every now and then you can see at least 4 articles about the future of media, freedom of expression. Everybody is self-contesting, self-censoring. Rahul Gandhi's office in Wayanad attacked. So in pursuit, in the Julius Assange WikiLeaks case, everything talked about freedom of speech and expression. So that is why this question appeared in the newspaper. You can see the reasonable restrictions is Article 19 Clause 2, and this says that nothing is absolute. And this reasonable restrictions can be imposed under what condition? This can also be a question. On what conditions can this be employed? 1, in the interest of sovereignty and the integrity of the country India, security of the state, or friendly relations with foreign states, maintaining public order, decency and morality, contempt of court, defamation, and incitement to an offence. So these are some of the condition and criteria where you can impose reasonable restrictions under 19 Clause 2. So freedom of expression of speech is not an absolute right. So please read more about freedom of speech and expression. This is very exhaustive. Read different conditions and regarding this, the media rights, the right to broadcast, etc. So every now and then such questions appear in the news. So read more on that. Moving on to the 4th question. Consider the following statements regarding National Mobile Monitoring Software App or NMMS app. It is in the newspaper Current Affair. What is the National Mobile Monitoring Software NMMS app? The National Mobile Monitoring Software app was launched by the Ministry of Science and Technology. Statement number 1. The NMMS app permits taking real-time attendance of workers of Mahatma Gandhi Narega or the employment generation work sites along with geo-tagged photograph. That means this app is basically used to get the attendance of the people working on the Narega with a geo-tagged photograph. Which of the following statements are right? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 and 2. What is the answer? Solve the answer is B. The National Mobile is an app launched by the Ministry of Science and Technology. That is absolutely false. It talks about Narega. The statement 2 is absolutely right. This app is used to record the attendance of the people who are working under the Narega, the Mahatma Gandhi Narega, the rural employment guarantee program. And what happens is their attendance is automatically taken in the app along with a geotagged photograph. So this is in controversy. So the answer was 2 only. And why this news came? Group wants new order of Narega workers revoked. The advent of absolute chaos in Narega. So what happens is that this was Ministry of Rural Development. Obviously, if you knew that NMMS app was related to Narega, Science and Technology Ministry would have been eliminated by logic, but definitely say 95% Science and Technology wouldn't have fitted. Definitely rural development would have been the important thing. So likewise, you could have eliminated statement 1. And this is to create more transparency in the monitoring of schemes in India. So real-time attendance, geotag photographs are taken. This is applied for all Narega workers in all the states and union territories. Everywhere you can see the Narega mates, local women, panchayat level people take this. Why this is being criticized is Narega or the M-Narega rural employment, what happens is normally they account people's work time in a day. They take the work time of a day, and many people complain that in order to get the geotag photograph and the attendance, you have to stay in the site for full day. Some people come in the morning, do their work, go back, sell their products, and they come back and they resume the work. So for such people who do this attendance problem has become a big time problem. So there are more problems of Narega and this NMMS app. Find out and read more on that. It is a current affair news. So moving on to the last question. Here we go. Consider the following statements regarding AUKUS Trilateral Alliance. It is in the newspaper International Relations regarding AUKUS Trilateral Alliance. Asian countries, UK and the US have come together to establish a new trilateral security partnership for the Indo-Pacific against China. Statement number 2. This initiative is expected to help Australia acquire a nuclear-powered submarine in a bid to counter China's growing power. Which of the following statements are right? 1 only, 2 only, both 1 and 2, neither 1 or 2. One is Asia, UK, US countries are part of this, and they say Australia, this treaty will help Australia to get a nuclear powered submarine. What is the answer? Let's solve it one by one. Asian countries, UK and US form the AUKUS. Absolutely false. It is not Asian countries, it is Australia. Australia, UK and US are AU, UK, Australia, UK and US. That is AUKUS. And exactly, the initiative is supposed to help Australia acquire a nuclear submarine. So why is this news important? The answer was 2 only second statement was right. And why was this news important? You can see China's military activity around Taiwan threatens region. AUKUS is actually Australia agrees payout ending France submarine spat. So the news is China is gaining a lot of importance in the Indo-Pacific region. That is the reason why many of the US is actually focusing on the Indo-Pacific area. That is why we have grouping called Quad, where US is supporting many countries, Australia, Japan, South Korea, Philippines, Taiwan. America is supporting many countries in this region because China is getting more power in this region. And China and Australia had a very bad relation. First of all, they cancelled license of China's company called Huawei. They cancelled a license, and on top of that, China imposed a restriction on Australia. So a lot of issues between China and Australia continued, and US has used that opportunity. And even UK is now interested in this Indo-Pacific region. So this is something that you have to know. AUKUS means Australia, UK, and Australia is getting a new rising China is one of the important thing. And you can see US is helping Japan, South Korea, Thailand, Philippines, as I said, India, and obviously Vietnam. So why AUKUS is created? They want to create new solutions, partnering for what? Defense, security, logistics, industries, technology, and also for, you can see, quantum technology, undersea capabilities, artificial intelligence, etc. The AUKUS countries will come together for a common integration with all this. And one thing, this is all against keeping China. China is becoming very powerful. And Australia has ratified the NPT. So this also brings us, what is NPT? The Non-Proliferation Nuclear Weapons NPT. Australia is going to get a nuclear submarine. So that is why Australia has ratified NPT. Has India ratified NPT? Find it out. So this was the Crack Prelims 2023 series from a newspaper. So subscribe and like our channel, LearnStroke IAS Current Affairs. You will get a more number of questions like this. Share it with your friends. Let's crack it together.